We have one of our favorite psychic mediums, Tina Powers, back with us today. Imagine this. News anchor and reporter Tina Powers is standing at the scene where a 13-year-old boy has been shot and killed. Tina, her cameraman, and the police are the first people at the crime scene. The parents of the boy have yet to arrive. This is just another tragedy that Tina stands to bear witness in the name of her job as the camera starts to roll. In her updated version of her book, Reporting for the Other Side, Tina shares her journey from the news world to reporting for the spirit world. And in doing so, we all get to learn the lessons the deceased want us to know, as well as the healing that comes from the reconnection between our worlds. If you're curious about life as a professional medium, as well as fine-tuning your own intuitive skills, you want to listen in. Hi, Tina.
Hello. Excited to be back.
We're so happy to have you. There's so much to discuss.
Yes, quite a time on the earth, right? Both personally and obviously in the larger sense. Wow.
And this new book that you're putting out into the world, it's not new, it's an amended version of your prior book, which we had so much fun reading. And I feel like we know you even better now. We knew you from the first round of the podcast, but you share so much insight on not only your own life, but the tools and the things that you've learned. Clearly, you're giving of your gift, but you're wanting to give the gift of you in this book. So we're so excited that you're here to talk to us about it and share a little bit more.
Thank you. Yes, I really wanted to update it. There are new chapters available because we're always at different parts of our lives. When we write a certain thing, or even when we look back, we go, oh, that's why that happened. Or, yes, this is what I've learned. And so I wanted to share that. And Spirit actually gave me the title, Reporting for the Other Side. I remember I was driving and it was just downloaded. And I thought, okay, cool. That's great.
Before we started this conversation, we talked about having some fun with this podcast. And I love the fact that your title actually has some fun with your life journey as well.
Thanks. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it does always make me laugh. I looked at the word funeral and it does have fun in it.
Oh my gosh, no, we did not talk about that. But
Because I
never thought of that.
put the fun back in funeral, okay? Because no more all wearing black. Yes, we grieve those that are no longer in their physical body and they're in another dimension. I firmly know that within myself and from all the connection with them. So we do go through grief, but those higher vibrations, there's joy, there's laughter. We're going to see them again. So I'm all for let's maybe change the dress code from black to something else like sparkles or
I love that. Yes. It's that whole idea of celebrating a life. Karen and I were just having a conversation. Everybody on this call knows that you don't really, you die. As you said, you go to a different dimension. So how do we send you off and also celebrate the life that we knew of you?
I just was thinking about the word too. It also has the word real in it at the end.
So we'll go real fun. Fun
Right.
real.
I will never look at that word the same way again.
I'm so happy that you brought that up. Totally new perspective.
Yeah. And I remember I was at a funeral once and I was crying. I was missing my friend Paul, who passed in the other world. I'll never forget that this gentleman, Pascal, he was in his 90s and very irreverent artist. He was a sculptor and he comes over and he places his hand on my knee. I think he's going to say something nice. And he leans in, he goes, "Don't worry. You're going to die too." I go, what? Immediately, I was a teeny bit offended. And then I just burst out laughing because it jolted me out of it. Oh, I'm going to be there someday too. I'm going to see everybody. I'm going to be there. Just remember that. But it was so blunt and just one phrase that it shocked me.
It reminds me, because as you said, we all will be there, to make sure my wishes are known, which is I hope people have a party when I'm gone. Honestly, have a DJ or something.
Let's do it up. All of us. Of course, we have a lot to do here still. It's built in that we don't know exactly when, or our soul knows, our higher part of ourselves knows. I'll never forget. I was 16 and I was at this party in a backyard and this guy that I dated, real cute, Danny Knert, comes up to me and we had ended up friends and he comes up and he goes, hey, I really need you to know I really love you. And my 16-year-old self is like, I love you too. He goes, no, I really want you to know that. A week later, he passed. He was on his way to UCLA. There was a construction accident before he left. And that was his soul talking to me. I have goosebumps everywhere. I was 16 at that time. And I learned that sometimes when people are getting ready to go, or maybe they're graduating, their soul will talk to you.
Wow, what a story. And to be able to receive that love too when somebody says,
I wasn't sure. I thought, wow, Danny Kinnear loves me. But then later on, I was like, oh, wow, that was him saying goodbye. I'm paying attention when the soul's talking because there's a clarity sometimes.
it's a higher self almost that speaks.
Exactly. And our body, we register truth frequency, I think.
There's just so many things to talk about, Tina.
For those who haven't heard the first podcast, can you share that story that was the turning point?
In college, I remember I majored in, it was then called radio and television. And now I think it's communications. But they had a PBS station at the University of Arizona, which was really cool. I got to be involved in it at a young age. I learned how to write broadcast journalism there. Long story short, I ended up in television news from there at a CBS affiliate. And I know then I was probably about 23 and started as a production assistant and then worked my way up to producer. And honestly, there was nobody else to send. You might get sent to do something important. We fast forward where my dad goes, we didn't want you to be in theater because it wasn't safe. So I'm out at hostage situations where I could get shot. I'm at murder scenes. I'm like, this is not safe. I learned nothing is safe. And I did see a lot of really horrible things. So I think I learned to disassociate in a certain way to be the observer. But also, I think all along, I really wanted to speak with the people around who were either grieving, who were impacted by a story. And I always understood it's the feeling underneath, because a story can just be a story. But if you have the love or you have the realness underneath of it, it will be taken in, right? Even with readings, as you guys are being such a wonderful platform for readers, when there's love underneath the reading, it makes everything that much more effective. Anyways, I think I had just had it when inside myself, when I was called to a drive-by shooting of a little boy. And this child was 13 years old. We were there before the father was on the scene. And the job of the cameraman, of course, was to roll on everything. And I even look back at that and I can see the father coming on the scene. And that's where he learned his son passed. And I had a moment where I was like, what am I doing? I'm not helping. We had learned that it was gang related. I knew what intuition was, but not really. It was just natural. And so I felt the gang members at home watching this, like thinking it was funny. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm not part of a solution. So I'll say in that moment with the father, I woke up to maybe a new way of thinking, being that wasn't concurrent with news. And of course, I grew 3 heads. I had been there before where it was like, go out for the story. News used to just be something new. And now it turned into, we need to know certain things, but it's almost, I speak about it to audiences about it, keeping people in fear.
And that sense of urgency that was always over your head about getting there first, getting the information out fast, spewing out the facts that were needed for the people to tell the story on the other end without any emotion. That was really what a reporter was supposed to be.
No emotion. And what's interesting as a medium, I can have emotion, but I can't fall into it because I'm the intermediary. So I think it did train me in a certain way to be able to focus the channel, the frequency. You can still have compassion, but if you fall deeply into the story, then I'm not at a higher frequency to be able to pull through the information. So it's all very interesting. I think integrity for me, it's like really listening to when your body says absolutely no, you're finished with a certain cycle. We don't have to make it bad, but maybe those, if I saw the news director who really didn't like me and made it hard on me right now, I would probably give her a hug and go, hey, thanks for not liking me, because I might have stayed and forced myself into this peg of a hole that I wasn't really made to stay, right? Because of security. So all our negative teachers, as we look back, we go, okay, thanks, because you showed me what not to do. I wouldn't be here speaking if they would have probably made it really easy. I don't know.
Then where did the mediumship start?
First of all, I want to say I believe we all have mediumship abilities. We're all sensitive beings. We're just taught to look outside of ourselves. Now, for me as a child, I will tell you, I didn't know it was clairsentience. I would feel energies very close, almost like they were looking at me, but I couldn't see them. And then sometimes I would hear people talk and I couldn't see a body attached to it. And so it would flip me out. And then occasionally I would see a quick vision of somebody, and it always happened at night. And I knew if I turned the light on, it all went away. So this was there as a child. And I think it's there for a lot of kids. The imaginary friend might be a guide, or they might be able to point out it's grandma or babies still looking at something that we can't always see because the frequency is really high. So we get glimpses of it.
And so then how did it come back to you?
How did the transition of that? So when I went back to the newsroom after the father asked me not to follow him around or do that reporter thing, they said, we're going to send you back out to this candlelight vigil tonight and stay on the story. And I said, I promised the dad, his father, that I wouldn't do that. And they were like looking at me, this is your job. And I said, I know it's my job, but my word means more than the job. And I knew that I better start looking around. So I got a job as a morning radio DJ on a 70s station. And I would be off work at 10 a.m. I was always interested in mystical. What's the truth? And I think that's probably why reporting ended up, there were good things I reported, but had that inquisitive nature. So I read everything I could get my hands on in the metaphysical. So it was like near death, astrology. I went to all these workshops. I went to a place called Camp Chesterfield where I didn't even know what a medium was. I didn't even know they were called mediums. And then somebody put a ticket in my hand to go to John Edward years and years ago. And I remember going and going, wow, this is amazing. If they go, you're psychic. Did you know you do this? No, I think sometimes things just open on a gradient. Crumbs are dropped and we do have free will. So the more I focused on it, like quantum physics, the more it started to come into my life. And there were some messages that started coming through more internally in my mind. It was almost like it was being downloaded. And I found if I repeated it, it seemed to mean something to somebody who was in front of me. That happened for quite a while.
It feels like at this part of your journey, you're really leaning into your truth of who you are. Like you learned so much in that on-air reporting environment, as much about these tools of storytelling, observing, all these things that you later used. But then you also were able to recognize in your own self, like what you weren't and what you didn't want to be. And I love the fact that you still wanted to be in some kind of media, but you decided that it was about being really yourself and you felt comfortable doing that in the radio world. And that opened up a whole new doorway to giving you the time to really explore.
It's
right.
true. And then my co-host at that time would always make fun of me and be like, what do your spirit guides say that you should do? So I'll always thank him because that was a really special time. I think as we get older and we look through our lives, we go, wow, that was really a cool time. I wish I would have appreciated it more.
You're energetically at a place in your life where you could open yourself up to.
Exactly.
You were going through this, in my mind, an unlocking, right? Once you start with that knowing, you trusted the knowing, you left. And here you had this time and you're diving deep into all of these different modalities and you're seeing the pieces. As Karen was saying, you're reporting, really, you were using that on yourself. Then what happens? Where do you end up continuing to trust to get to you where you are now?
Let me just tell you something, at least in my experience, you never feel in this work that you're on it. You just keep showing up and opening up. And it's always about intention. It's like you don't arrive there, or at least in my experience. So it's always new. But I would say that my then mother-in-law, who was wonderful, I was sitting with her and I can still see it. It's like a green velvet couch. And inside my mind, which I later found out can be clairaudience, because clairaudience is French for clear hearing. It can be inside the mind or it can be direct voice outside. But this was inside very loud. And I kept hearing the word Lottie. And I'm like, it came again, Lottie. And then it got louder inside my mind. And finally I looked at her because I was sitting across from her at the couch and I said, does the word lottie or lottery, does that mean anything to you? And she looks at me and she goes, I had an Aunt Charlotte, but she died 30 years ago, but we called her Lottie. And then this is where a picture of a shoe, I will say it came on my screen inside my mind. And I said, if this is her, she's showing me a shoe. And she said she had a shoe store in Britain. And then I heard the name Maggie. I said, who's Maggie? She started to flip out because she goes, that's my nickname. Now, let me just say, it wasn't like the burning bush. It was very organic. We can think we're not really getting anything, and we're worried about being wrong because our society, we're more about what's the intention here? Is it to help? So the more I started repeating things like that day and that night, just completely, it was channeling, like something opened up. As where even her father, and I was like, do I really say that? I heard, tell her a nip at night never hurt anyone. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And she just burst out crying. She goes, in order to make me sleep, sometimes my dad gave me a little nip of something. He used to say that. So for me to do this, it had to be so accurate or seemingly, but I'll tell you the main reason was the next day I saw her face and she looked different. Something had lifted, and I have goosebumps right now even saying that. That was the reason to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's the healing part of all of this work. It's number one, you're bringing this reconnection with a deceased loved one. And you're also, in my opinion, you are showcasing that we, again, don't really die. We just change form, that we're going into this other realm. And for you to have such detail for something that was not, Google was probably not even around at that time. But point being, it's not something that you could have looked up and have known. So that's what makes it even more real for the person receiving it.
Exactly. So they're like, wow. And an apology came through. I do remember that. Sometimes I don't remember. And in fact, majority of the time, I don't remember a lot of the details. It's not the same as I can't remember what I ate last week, but I'm very present in the moment, but sometimes it just goes through. But certain ones I've retained that I think I had to have that in order to keep going, but I didn't have anything at stake. Oh, I'm going to go be a psychic medium.
You talk in the book about how you became the news one time when you had a car accident and you had a near-death experience. Can you talk about how that kind of helped you even more in your work as a psychic medium?
I remember that day I had gone to go swim laps and I'm driving home and with my shorts and bathing suit still wet, and I'm at a stoplight and all of a sudden I get hit so hard from behind, and later on find out it was a drunk driver that didn't slow down. It was like going 75 miles an hour. Now, I remember in that moment, because it goes into slow motion when we're in those really strange things happen. It's almost like we go outside of time. Time seems to be different. And I remember hearing inside my head very loudly, although I wouldn't have known that was a guide, it was somebody, said, do not go to sleep. Do not go to sleep. They just kept repeating that. And this man shows up, my angel in human form, and he just shows up. He gets me out. He keeps talking to me. I keep hearing, and all I want to do is go to sleep. And he just keeps me awake. Now, I didn't know. I found out later I was held at the veil because I could have passed. Right then. I was in between. I guess that's what one of the healers calls it. And sometimes I don't think you have to have a big hit on the head to be psychic, but perhaps some of these things just thrust it forward. And so I didn't have the experience of, oh, I'm actually on the other side looking at all this like I know a lot of people have. This was me still fighting to stay in my body and just hearing, don't go to sleep. And I do know if I would have passed. Later on, I put the pieces together. Oh, this was a part of my opening. Can we do it a little nicer? Okay.
Less painful.
I'd imagine in both of your discoveries and the people you speak with, sometimes they do have these openings, or somebody has an intense childhood. And so they become hyper aware of reading energy. That was my story. So I know it had a hand in opening things up more, but I didn't just go straight into the mediumship. I know it did open me more.
I don't know what you believe in terms of exit points. Do you feel like it might have been one of them?
Yes. And I always say that's why I'm really careful to go, okay, this is what I know so far.
Yeah.
And I always watch people who say, oh no, this is the way it is for sure, because it could be that way in their timeline or they were told that. But I'm always very aware that I'm learning, evolving a long time ago. And I know we're going to talk about it. I didn't even know you could talk to animals or be on that channel. So, yes, as far as exit points go, I do believe we have different exit points.
And it, to me, when you tell the story, the book, and when you're just telling it now, that voice in your head, to me, it's whether it was a guide or maybe your higher self saying, no, you're not ready, actually. Don't go to sleep.
Don't go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this amazing healer. His name is Jeremy Warner. He's really cool out of Sedona, but he was looking and he's, oh yeah, you were totally held at the veils. And that was a real moment. So yeah, another medium friend who she believes we have several exit points in our lives of possibility of leaving our physical body. And then there's some people that come from, oh, we pre-planned when we're going. But that was a potential exit point.
It's funny. I think even the words that you're using around don't go to sleep, it was such a pivotal time in your life where you were making that choice of, could I go be normal?
Am I feeling normal? Why is everyone treating me like I'm not normal?
And so that was really around that time, though, that you made actually that proactive action to take this life on of being this healer for people or helping them to heal. And that was a big transition. So I love the fact that was the voice saying, don't go to sleep.
Go to sleep. And maybe that's a metaphor for life.
In the book, you also give a lot of really good tools for people who may not know what the clairs are or what even intuition is. Can you share a few of them that you shared with us in the book about how to keep your intuitive abilities sharp?
What I try to do in the morning, and I'm not perfect about it, who is? But when I first wake up and I'm floating in between, I ask my guides at that moment, or it can be higher self, guides, anyone on the other side, if there are any messages for me for the day. Because we're in between the veils there before we walk into the day. And the red carpet can be rolled out a little bit more, so we're not reacting to everything, we're responding. So I start that way. A lot of times honoring, because how many people have you talked to have heard their name called clairaudiently, have think that they're making up that their dad's talking to them in their head or their sister or whomever. And it's no, how about we start to go, yes, instead of the usual thing that goes, I must be making this up. And oh, this is really strange. Or, oh, isn't that a coincidence? And it's no, it's two things that coincide perfectly together. They fit together. So starting to honor the voices that you hear in your head. Spiritual energy isn't all over the place. It's usually pretty succinct. So if we start saying, thank you more, please, instead of I'm making that up, it'll open the channels more. Also with writing, I think writing is such a powerful tool. There is such a thing called automatic writing, and that's where a lot of things are channeled. That's channeling is hearing, seeing, sensing, and pulling it through a lot of times. You have to turn off the logic part of your brain that goes, well, that's not right, and you just make friends with it. But if you sit down and start just writing and getting things out on paper, Julia Cameron calls it the morning pages. If you've ever done the artist's way, it drains us. Many times books are started from there. I remember I love telling the story about Amanda McBroom, who was in Traffic in LA. She is a songwriter. All of a sudden, a whole song came downloaded to her, and it was The Rose that she wrote that. And she called her husband and you've got a standard. And then, of course, Bette Midler made it just crazy. But this came through a channeling, direct words. We just have to open up for it and slow down. I have to say, certainly we see people sometimes will get an apparition. And I think a lot of us are looking for that for confirmation, and it can happen. But more often than not, we might see inside our mind, clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. So you might meditate, you might see somebody's face in your mind. I sometimes see outside, like in your room. I used to see people, but it seems to be pretty quick for me. It's not like how Hollywood shows it. Okay. So I think everyone's walking around thinking the burning bush has to happen or they're not clairvoyant. And I say, oh no, you are, because you see inside your mind. You start honoring that third eye within. And then we do see externally, like auras. It's called auric vision. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't, where I'll see colors around people. Have you guys had that before?
Yes.
I have.
And it's cool, right?
It is.
Maybe for some people, they walk in and see that all the time, but mine more comes and goes. When things start happening, asking for more, checking it out, honoring, it's our own GPS system that we were already set up with. We just weren't taught how to use it and honor it. And this is what you all are doing in the platform of that, of exploring that. I saw a lot of different readers, a lot of different healers, and to learn my own way is learning to paint. There's a technique, but you'll always find your own way, and to honor that.
Oh, that's such a good analogy.
So much goodness. I'm just thinking there's like even just the little blurbs of what you said are so helpful.
Agree. I love the way you put that. It gives people not only the ideas of what to look for, but the permission to trust.
Trust ourselves. I'm going, I don't really trust that person. I don't really trust this. I don't trust that. I don't trust men. And I'm like, you learn to trust yourself. And
You're
then
right.
you receive about everything else. And it's just the way we're brought up. I think we forget and remember all life long.
And you had to trust yourself.
You're so right. And there were days, boy, where you go, okay, am I really just making all this up? And now what am I doing? And I do remember at one point, and I don't think she'd mind me saying, Linda Ronstadt grew up in Tucson, and I got to hang with her a little bit at one point. And she would tell me, I feel like a fraud. This is just so easy for me. And sometimes, so I think sometimes when we have, all of us have things that we're designed to do, you start going, oh, wow, am I making this up? Should I really be paid money for this? All of these things. But the more that I learned just to say what I was getting, because it was more organic, then it seemed to help. So I just kept going with it. That's all. And I also learned it's okay to be wrong.
That's such a good point. And Tina, you're right.
We only see on a lot of medium shows, we see the best of the best edited together because that's more exciting. But we don't see when the medium is going, oh gosh, maybe I'm getting something else. I've had people also think before I was so wrong about something, and then later on it ended up being accurate. I had a teacher, Michael Cassatt. He said to me, Tina, for as right as you can be, don't be afraid to be wrong. And that goes with life.
Yes, that's such good advice, honestly.
And go back to what's your intention. Is the intention to help? Is the intention to heal or bring goodness? That can be felt, and that's always authentic. Obviously, it has to be right enough to do it. But if I didn't allow myself that, because the judgment of self, I think for all of us, it's just so intense. So we go back to what's our intention.
You start every chapter of your book with an excerpt from an actual reading that you've done for people, which is so smart because so many people have never had a reading. So it's a really good way to show all types of people who come to you for different reasons. And it's interesting. It seems like with every person that, yes, sometimes you get validation from them that you've made the connection or answered their question, but there's many times when they don't always understand your message. And then they come back to you months later saying, oh, this came true.
That does happen.
That's right. And you also talk about your work with Dr. Gary Schwartz and his scientific research on the afterlife and evidential medium. For people listening who don't know, what is an evidential medium and what was that work that you did?
So I had stayed away from science for a little bit because I had thought, you know what? Science only knows what can be proven, not the larger picture of what I'm seeing. And so I thought, goodness, what if the parameters of a certain scientific experiment just knocks down everything that I've done? Like I wasn't ready to handle that at that moment. I had a client who was actually a brain surgeon. He was friends with Gary, and somehow we all ended up meeting. And he's so great. He's like, how have I not met you? Because he was at the University of Arizona, my alumni school. He was at Harvard, Yale. And if you all look him up, he's amazing. He's like the foremost one proving that there is life after life. When I met him, I immediately felt comfortable, and his wife, and they made it in such a way that it was friendly. And also I met him and them at a point where he really knew that it was real too, because I think when he did HBO Afterlife experiments, and John Edward was on that, Alison Dubois, medium, and there was a whole lot of brave psychic mediums who signed up for that, who proved that without a doubt, we continue outside of the body. So working with him, he's working on a soul phone, and publicly I can talk about that, where the algorithms, and of course, there's about 6 of us who work with him pretty consistently, and they call it blind. So we don't know too much because they're gathering research and information on it. So we don't get to know certain things until a certain point. But evidence-based medium means that you're giving enough evidence in what's happening that he or somebody else in a scientific situation is able to say, yeah, that's without a doubt, it's evidential mediumship. When you're tested that way, you go in completely blind, they call it. And that means you have no knowledge of anything. They just start throwing things out and then you channel whatever you get. And it can be nerve-wracking. And yeah, I just did another one for the University of Arizona in the psychiatry department and helping there.
How did that work?
I'm waiting to hear they grade you. It's like nerve-wracking and I'm waiting. But I thought anything to help those who are helping others know that there's this other realm. I'm really grateful to be a part of that.
The science of this is so exciting now, right? For so many years, it was just nobody even wanted to talk about it. Then it was magic. There were so many woo words associated with it. And it's just so exciting to see now how these really incredible doctors and scientists are putting so much time behind it and are showing people the real impact that this can have on people's lives.
True. And he did come from a completely skeptical mind, and he was looking for his friend Susie. Yeah, really grateful to have him. And so he's got many books out.
It's a good avenue to go down and take a look at the work he's done and that you're doing with him and others, because if you need some of that validation from that perspective, it's there.
And that's important for people checking this out.
It is.
When you're getting a reading, I still always say a word of mouth is always the best. Mm-hmm. Nothing can beat that. And I know that there are a lot of readers out there, but you always trust the way you feel during a session as well.
And you've had so many conversations with people from the other side. And a few things that you've learned universally are some of these knowings and it's guidance from the other side that we should all use in our daily lives. Can you name a few of those that have come to you through the years?
Forgiveness is a big one. But I think there's a misnomer in forgiveness because here's the deal. What somebody did, if they were toxic, if they were mean, if they were narcissistic, if they were handling themselves in not a good way, it's not condoning that because that wasn't okay. It's not saying turn the other cheek, I think doesn't mean pretend that it didn't happen and that's okay. So I think it's important to identify that that wasn't all right. And then I think it's important that we pull back all our energy from that individual and go, okay, this feeling that I have, how often do I have this feeling? Is it showing up in other patterns, in other workplaces, in other personal relationships, and making the aha about that? The more that we can pull back our energy to ourselves, so whether that's with a therapist, whether that's with a reader, but pulling back those fragments of ourselves that are hurt, that when we think about them, we're no longer triggered, sad, freaked out, like we graduate from the trigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Once we do, it's hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yeah. Well, our triggers are our biggest lessons, right? Our biggest transformations can come from dealing with those triggers.
Exactly. And whether that's forgiveness, whether that's holding ourselves back because we were brought up that we weren't a self-worth issue, feeling left out, rejection, abandonment, all of these things. The earth is very dualistic. There's North Pole, South Pole, there's love, there's hate, there's all of those perceptions where it's the perfect playground to learn to come back to the middle and to choose what we want. So I think more than ever, more people are waking up, even though it's chaotic on the earth. They're taking a look at, okay, how do I want my life to look? And I'm not a victim of everything. We can have our life review now. What's not working? If we can't say we're sorry to somebody, can we do it in a meditation? Can we write a note? Sometimes it's not safe to say something to somebody. I learned that intimacy, either in a friendship or relationship, if that person isn't safe, it's not suggested you go back in there. You can do it in another way, but really taking care of everything on this side before we get to the other side, whether it's just a higher frequency. is
Yeah.
what my understanding is. But let's take a look at it now and let's clear things now that we can clear. Or hey, I put this off, let's do this, but not being so judgmental of ourselves.
Good one.
Tina, has all of this helped you personally, having this role? Has it helped you in your own life?
Of course, I always laugh because if I get something in a reading that somebody, they're like, yeah, and you should be walking because I can talk to you. And also, you need to move your body. I can feel them going, yeah, and you too. Why aren't you moving something?
Yep.
I don't get out of anything here. It's certainly helped me. I would also say how much I appreciate the time in the now. And I know it's really hard sometimes to be patient about the future because it's okay. Yeah, let's get the show going. Let's do all these things. Let's fast forward so that we're all doing our purpose. And then sometimes it's helped me be more present, grateful for this day, rise from any irritation or how do I want to live. It's important to find friends who are safe that you can bounce things off of and work with, and also asking for those. You can say it in prayer or check it out with others who are there to help and assist. I would certainly say it's given me the viewpoint to go, let's take care of things. I have my own stuff for sure. We're all human. So in order to stand in our complete empowerment, what does that look like?
Also, you mentioned this earlier in our conversation, but you do have this exercise in your book about how to communicate with animals. Can you share that? And I also would love to share our conversation about your white wolf, Gabriel, too.
I got this call through a friend and she said, hey, can you help this woman in Anchorage? Can you take her call? She's lost her cat. And I was like, gosh, I really don't know. I don't think I know how to do that. I don't want to. And then she just try. I asked my guides and I tuned in and I saw a picture of the cat underneath a porch. So I gave that information. She's, oh no, we already looked there. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm off. I don't want to create any more drama with this. And so then 2 days later, she calls back and says that they re-looked and that the cat was way under the porch. And so that's the first time I went, oh, I'm going to pay attention to what the animals are saying. They're so present. And I do animal rescue with dogs on the euthanasia list at the shelters. And that's a whole other thing that's happened. I have to tell you, here at Pima Community College, there's a woman named Linda Johns, where I learned from. She taught at the university level a non-credited course in animal communication. And so I need to learn about this. And then I learned, yeah, every living object, it has a frequency and we can learn how to communicate. So the plants, the trees, the animals. So I went to her course and I learned how to tune in a little bit better with that. Really, it's getting quiet. Animals see through pictures. So a lot of times I'll send a picture. If Gabriel, I'm like, hey, I don't have a lot of time here. You need to go potty.
This is your dog.
Or you send the picture of what you want them to do. Like they communicate through that. So they read our thoughts all the time. They understand everything. And so getting quiet, it's almost like seeing a radar. We found probably over 30 animals over the last few years who were lost, who were on the earth plane, able to show where they were. But it's almost those when you watch the weather and you see the radar, pull up a screen in your own mind and then start to ask your dog questions. You can do it through pictures. You can do it through talking and the pictures, and then just open up to see what comes back on your screen and start to validate that.
I love the way that you're putting that for people, because there's so many people listening or watching right now that have pets and do probably look at them as a guide or a best friend. But the fact that you can yourself just now, today, start trying to communicate in this other way and see what happens. I think that's really special.
Yes, so many of us have that frequency already established with our pets that we know how they feel and they know how we feel. So it's almost like the point of least resistance to try some of this.
Really try it and have fun with it. Even yesterday, I have my helpers and people that I talk to as well, but I was talking to Linda, that animal communicator. I said, I'm tuning in with Gabriel, but is there anything that he would like me to know, just because I'm so close sometimes that it's fun for me to hear? She goes, oh, it's consistency. is his word for you? I'm like, yeah, I'm not always as consistent with what time I do things or the scheduling or this or that, so that I could work on that. But I firmly believe we have soul contracts with animals.
I love that. I just want to share really quickly. One of our conversations in the last few months, we brought up the fact that Karen and I are always channeling Seeking Center, the entity. As you said, everything has a frequency, and we know Seeking Center has a frequency. And what Seeking Center comes to us as is this goddess, and along with the goddess is a white wolf. And that is our representation. And it's come to me in different meditations, in Reiki, energy healing, and shows itself. And when I wake up in the morning, sometimes you were talking about that in between state, that white wolf is licking me. And the particular day that we had that conversation, the white wolf was licking me when I woke up. And that does happen, but it's not an everyday thing. And when I said that to you, you were like, what did you just say? And I said, Seeking Center's the white wolf. And you were like, hang on a second. And you showed us Gabriel, which you also call the white wolf, who looks like a white wolf. And it was one of the most validating things that I think has happened to us in these last few years around Seeking Center and just in general. What are the chances? And obviously we trust you as a guide and a channel and all the things. So to have that be like an actual physical representation.
And the name Gabriel, right?
Yes.
You can't make this up. It was so perfectly timed.
He's such a great helper and observer. And like I said, I fully believe we have soul contracts with animals, the ones that teach us to live, really be in present moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's an energy exchange that you have with them.
I think life would be so flat without.
Absolutely. And they're guides even beyond. I recently lost one of my soul guides, and it's unbelievable to me and my family how he has shown up.
Isn't that cool?
And continues to in the most obvious ways, but also the most unexpected. And so just like our human loved ones, our animal loved ones continue to be our guide.
I have always said a prayer too, because I learned a lot of people have had their animals back. And the prayer is after they pass, if it's in your highest good to work with me more in the physical plane, show me the way to find you, because they're evolving also as we're evolving. And even my dog, Wendy, she's the only dog that I've ever picked up. She was like a Toto Wizard of Oz dog. Wendy ended up with me 17 years. She gave me a dream that I would not be with her when she passed, which of course I tried to circumvent it and stay home. And the minute that I went to New York, she transitioned, but she told me. And just even last week, she's been in the other worlds for about 10 years. She barked and woke me up the other morning. There's nothing like an animal's love for sure. And even if people didn't grow up with pets or that hasn't been introduced to them, even in Native American, we can have totem animals. We can have animals that work with us on the physical. The hawks, you can start noticing who's around you and wildlife. And a lot of times they say they bring certain medicine and gifts. It's a whole other world that's really magical. And I think that's what we're all looking for, a little bit more magic in our lives and meaning. And like I said, putting the fun back in funerals so that we're enjoying ourselves here.
That's such a good transition to the bit about orbs that you wrote in the book. Rob and I are passionate about orbs. We look for them all the time. So for people who don't know what orbs are, what is your definition? Talk about magic.
I believe it's the spiritual structure, light structure that souls travel in another dimension. And so like we have our bodies, but a lot of times when they're visiting us, we might see it, we might get an orb. And a lot of times I found I had this camera that I had gotten where it started picking up orbs because the pixels on the cameras are so amazing that they can see in other dimensions. The animals can also see them. You'll see your pet see people in the room because they're already on that plane. So I just believe they're letting us, the more open we are, taking pictures at night, a lot of times they'll show up. I don't know if you've all had that happen, but they're just showing up to say hello or that they're around. And it's a really wonderful way. We can see them sometimes as glimmers of light sometimes, or like you just saw, Karen, but it might just be a flicker sometimes. But I think it's just their vehicle to travel in.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah.
I do too. Just
Yeah.
again, it's part of the magic. It
It
really
is.
is.
And,
It is.
and it's endless. It's great discussion. But I think in the larger picture, like all of this brings relief.
Mm. So true. That's what
And,
all of this does. Yeah.
yeah. And I'll never forget, was it in a Ruth Montgomery? She was a White House correspondent long ago who was it Arthur Ford? I forget which medium. Anyway, she was sent to debunk a seance. And she went and she found it was real. And so then she started her discovery. Ruth Montgomery wrote a lot of books. She's in the other realm. But I love the way it was explained about spiritual energy was when those floor fans, when you plug them in and they're going slow and you can see the blades. But when you turn it on high, you can see through the blades. And so the higher frequencies are like that. So even though they're there, they're just at a higher, faster frequency.
Ooh, that is such a great way to
Mhm.
explain that. I've
Mhm.
never heard that.
Yes.
I've heard of Ruth Montgomery, but I've never heard described that way.
Ooh,
Yeah, he wrote that in a book, and I was like, oh, that's perfect because anybody can understand that.
yes. And once to going back to what we talked about at the beginning, which was starting to trust sometimes when you get certain visions or you hear something or you feel something or you know something, the more you do that and the more you practice and the more you get, sometimes the faster it
Right.
comes to you, right? And so it goes to that higher frequency and that it's moving more quickly. And
Right.
so and the more that you're practicing and can actually hear, feel, see any of that, that when you think about that fan, it is that it's going quicker.
Hmm.
Exactly. That's why we sometimes see glimpses and people go, oh,
Yes.
you're not really clairvoyance. Yes, you are. You just saw that, or you saw the colors, or you saw the flicker of light inside. Inside, we also see too, just like when we dream.
Hmm.
Yes.
Awake.
Well, thank you for all that you have done, continue to do, for continuing to be on the journey, for continuing to help heal and bring
Mhm.
this to all of our attention and really come from that place of reporting.
You.
Yeah, and the book is really special. It really, I love the story of your life. You have so many stories that are inspiring and fun and funny that really bring to life the fact that we love to say like the all of the practitioners' guides, people that we meet, they're like real people with real lives, with real stories. And you shared yours in such a open way with all of us in a way that we could all learn from and be inspired from. And so grateful that you're putting this new version out. The cover of the book is beautiful. I know it's your own artwork and it just looks like you. It feels like the light that you are, Tina. So we're excited to share with everyone this great work you've done. So thank you.
I'm so grateful to be connected with you both and be on Lovely Seeking Center. And I love what you all are doing. And it's so important. So it just has a wonderful high frequency. And I just say we keep going, right? And trusting
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes. We so look forward to continuing to work together too.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
And
you.
you can find out more about working with Tina and her updated book, Reporting from the Other Side, which will be available in November at tinapowers.com. You can also find Tina at Miraval in Tucson, Arizona every month. And she'll be at Post Ranch in December 12th through the 19th. And we'll have all this information in our show notes. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tina.
you.
Tina.
And White Wolf, rather, says, thank
Oh, like,
you.
well, Gabriel. Oh,
Oh, you've got a nod.
We